The ambulance lights flashed red against the hospital windows, and Maya Donovan knew she was about to lose everything she had worked for in the last 3 years if she did not get on that plane to Guatemala within 12 hours. She stood in the parking lot with her phone pressed to her ear, listening to her business partner explain that the coffee farm deal was falling apart, that the sellers had another buyer, that if she did not show up in person tomorrow morning, their entire company would collapse. Her hands shook as she ended the call. She had built this ethical coffee importing business from nothing, working 16-hour days, sleeping on friends' couches, eating ramen for months. Now it was finally taking off, finally profitable, and it was all going to disappear because she had to choose between her dying father and her dream. She walked back into the hospital, her sneakers squeaking against the linoleum. Her father was sleeping, the machines beeping steadily beside him. The doctors said he was stable after the heart attack, but they wanted to monitor him for at least another week. Her mother had died 2 years ago, and Maya was all he had left. She could not just abandon him, but she also could not let the business die. She had employees now, 3 people who depended on her for their paychecks. She had farmers in Central America who were counting on her to buy their beans at fair prices. "You look like someone just ran over your dog," a voice said from behind her. Maya turned to find a man standing in the hallway, tall and broad-shouldered, wearing an expensive suit that looked completely out of place in the dingy hospital corridor. His dark hair was slightly messy, like he had been running his hands through it, and his eyes were a striking gray that seemed to see right through her. "Sorry," she said. "I am just having a terrible day." "I can see that," he said. His voice was deep and warm. "Your father." Maya nodded, wondering why she was telling a complete stranger anything. "Heart attack. He is stable now, but I need to stay with him, and I also need to be in Guatemala tomorrow morning or my business is going to fall apart, and I cannot be in 2 places at once." The man studied her for a moment. "What kind of business?" "Coffee importing," Maya said. "Ethical sourcing, fair trade, that whole thing. We work directly with small farmers. I have been negotiating this deal for months, and if I do not show up in person tomorrow, we lose it all. But I cannot leave my dad." "What if you could do both?" the man asked. Maya laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Unless you know how to clone me, I do not see how." "I have a private plane," he said simply. "It is at the airport right now. I could have you in Guatemala by morning and back here by tomorrow night. You could do your meeting and be back before your father even wakes up." Maya stared at him. "Are you serious, completely?" "I do not even know you," Maya said. "Why would you do that?" The man extended his hand. "Harrison Wells." "And as for why, let us just say I know what it is like to watch something you built fall apart. If I can help someone avoid that, I will." Maya shook his hand, feeling the calluses on his palm despite the expensive suit. "That is incredibly generous, but I could not possibly accept." "I mean, the cost alone." "I was going to have the plane sitting empty anyway," Harrison said. "I was supposed to fly out tomorrow afternoon, but my meeting got postponed. The plane and crew are already paid for. You would actually be doing me a favor. I hate seeing resources go to waste." Maya felt tears prick her eyes. She had been so strong for so long, handling everything alone, and now this stranger was offering her a lifeline. "I do not know what to say." "Say yes," Harrison said. "Let me help." Maya looked back at her father's room. The nurse had told her he would probably sleep through the night. If she left now, she could make the meeting, save the business, and be back before he even knew she was gone. It felt impossible, like something that only happened in movies, but Harrison was standing right there, looking at her with such genuine kindness that she found herself believing him. "Okay," she said. "Yes, thank you." Harrison smiled, and it transformed his entire face. "Good." Go say goodbye to your father, grab whatever you need for the trip, and meet me in the parking lot in 20 minutes. Maya hurried back into her father's room. He was still sleeping peacefully, his chest rising and falling in steady rhythm. She kissed his forehead and whispered, "I will be back soon, Dad. I promise." Then she texted her father's nurse to let her know she would be gone for about 24 hours and to call immediately if anything changed. 20 minutes later, Maya stood in the parking lot with her backpack and laptop bag, feeling like she was living in some kind of fever dream. Harrison pulled up in a sleek black car and got out to open the passenger door for her. "Ready?" he asked. "As I will ever be," Maya said, sliding into the passenger seat. The drive to the airport took 30 minutes. Harrison asked her about her business, and Maya found herself talking more than she had in months. She told him about how she had started the company after a trip to Honduras, where she had seen coffee farmers working themselves to exhaustion for pennies, while big corporations made millions. She had decided to create a different model, one where farmers got paid fairly and consumers got better coffee. It had been an uphill battle, but they were finally starting to make real progress. "That is impressive," Harrison said. "Most people see a problem and complain about it. You actually did something." "What about you?" Maya asked. "What do you do?" "I am in manufacturing," Harrison said. "Industrial equipment mostly. Started the company about 15 years ago in my garage, and it has grown quite a bit since then." "That is vague," Maya said with a small smile. Harrison laughed. "Fair enough. I design and manufacture specialized machinery for food processing. Started because I saw that small producers could not compete with big corporations because they could not afford the equipment. So I built machines that were more affordable and more efficient. Now we have about 2,000 employees across 3 countries. Maya did a quick mental calculation. "You are not just successful, are you? You are a millionaire." "Several times over," Harrison admitted. "But I still remember what it was like to struggle, to pour everything into a dream and pray it works out. That is why I wanted to help you. I have been where you are." They arrived at the small private airport, and Maya's eyes widened when she saw the plane. It was not huge, but it was beautiful and clearly expensive. Harrison handled all the logistics, talking to the pilots and crew like they were old friends. Within an hour, they were in the air. Maya tried to focus on her presentation, but she kept stealing glances at Harrison. He had changed into jeans and a comfortable sweater, and he was reading through some kind of technical manual. Every so often, he would look up and catch her staring, and he would smile. "Nervous about the meeting?" he asked. "Terrified," Maya admitted. "This is the biggest deal we have ever done. If we close it, we can expand into 3 new markets. If we do not, we might have to lay people off." "Tell me about the presentation," Harrison said. "Walk me through it." Maya pulled out her laptop and went through her slides. Harrison listened carefully, asking questions that were surprisingly insightful. He pointed out a few places where she could strengthen her argument, and he suggested some financial projections that made her case even more compelling. "You are really good at this," Maya said. "Have you done a lot of negotiations?" "Hundreds," Harrison said. "When you run a business, everything is a negotiation. Contracts, partnerships, employee salaries. You get good at it or you fail." They talked for hours, the conversation flowing easily from business to books to travel. Maya learned that Harrison had grown up poor in rural Montana, the youngest of 5 kids. His father had been a mechanic, and Harrison had learned to fix things by watching him work. He had put himself through engineering school by working 3 jobs, and he had started his company with money he had saved for years. "I always thought millionaires were born rich," Maya said. "Some are," Harrison said, "but a lot of us clawed our way up. That is why I try to help when I can. I know how hard it is. The plane landed in Guatemala City just as the sun was rising. Harrison insisted on coming to the meeting with her, saying he wanted to make sure everything went smoothly. Maya was grateful for his presence. He did not take over or try to run things, but he stood beside her, a reassuring presence that made her feel less alone. The meeting was intense. The coffee farm owners were skeptical, worried that Maya's company was too small to handle their volume, but Maya was passionate and prepared. She showed them exactly how her model worked, how she had built relationships with roasters across the United States who were hungry for ethically sourced beans. Harrison jumped in at one point, offering insights about scaling production and managing growth. His confidence and expertise seemed to reassure the farmers. After 3 hours of discussion, the farm owners agreed to the deal. Maya felt like she could finally breathe again. She shook hands with everyone, fighting back tears of relief. Her company was saved. Her employees would keep their jobs. The farmers would get fair prices for their incredible coffee. Harrison took her to lunch at a small restaurant near the farm. They sat outside under a canopy of trees, eating fresh tortillas and drinking some of the best coffee Maya had ever tasted. "Thank you," Maya said. "I could not have done this without you." "Yes, you could have," Harrison said. "You would have found a way, but I am glad I could help." "Why did you really do this?" Maya asked. "The truth." Harrison was quiet for a moment, looking out at the mountains in the distance. "About 5 years ago, my sister needed me. She was going through a divorce, and she asked me to fly out to stay with her for a few days. But I was in the middle of a huge deal, and I told her I could not make it. I said I had to handle it alone, that I was too busy to drop everything. She said she understood." He paused, his jaw tightening. "She died 2 days later, car accident, and I never got to tell her I was sorry for not being there." Maya reached across the table and took his hand. "Harrison, that was not your fault." "I know," he said. "Logically, I know that. But I have never stopped wishing I had made a different choice. So when I heard you say you had to do something alone, that you had to choose between your father and your business, I just thought maybe I could help someone not have to make that choice." "I am so sorry about your sister," Maya said softly. Harrison squeezed her hand. "Thanks. It has gotten easier with time, but I still miss her every day." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, still holding hands across the table. Maya felt something shift inside her. This was not just gratitude she was feeling. It was something deeper, something that scared and excited her in equal measure. The flight back to the United States was different. The relief of closing the deal had made Maya relaxed and happy, and she and Harrison talked about everything except business. She learned that he loved old movies and terrible puns. He learned that she was terrified of spiders but had once gone skydiving on a dare. They laughed until Maya's sides hurt, and somewhere over Mexico, Harrison fell asleep with his head tilted back, and his hand resting near hers on the armrest between them. Maya watched him sleep, studying the strong lines of his face, the slight stubble on his jaw. She barely knew this man, but she felt like she had known him forever. It did not make sense, but very little about the last 24 hours made sense. When they landed back at the small airport, it was late evening. Harrison drove Maya back to the hospital, and they sat in the parking lot for a moment, neither wanting to say goodbye. "I should check on my dad," Maya said. "Of course," Harrison said. "But Maya, I would like to see you again if you are interested." Maya felt her heart race. "I would like that. A lot." Harrison pulled out his phone. "Give me your number." They exchanged information, and Maya reached for the door handle, but Harrison touched her arm gently. "Wait," he said. He leaned across the console and kissed her, soft and sweet. Maya kissed him back, her hand coming up to rest against his chest. When they pulled apart, they were both smiling. "I will call you tomorrow," Harrison said. "I will answer," Maya promised. Maya's father was awake when she entered his room. He looked tired but alert, and his face lit up when he saw her. "Hey, kiddo," he said. "The nurse said you had to run out for a business emergency. Everything okay?" "Everything is perfect, Dad," Maya said, hugging him carefully. "I closed the deal. The company is going to be fine." "That is my girl," her father said proudly. "Just like your mother, never gives up." Maya spent the night in the chair beside her father's bed, dozing on and off. She kept thinking about Harrison, about the way he had kissed her, about how her life had completely changed in the span of a single day. True to his word, Harrison called the next morning. They talked for an hour, and he asked if he could take her to dinner once her father was released from the hospital. Maya said yes without hesitation. Over the next 2 weeks, as Maya's father recovered, Harrison visited the hospital almost every day. He brought coffee from Maya's favorite shop, sandwiches when she forgot to eat, and once, a deck of cards so he could teach her father to play poker. The two men got along surprisingly well, both of them sharing a dry sense of humor and a love of old westerns. "I like him," Maya's father said one afternoon when Harrison had stepped out to take a phone call. "He is solid, honest, and the way he looks at you, sweetheart, that is how I used to look at your mother." Maya felt her cheeks warm. "We have only known each other for 2 weeks, Dad." "Sometimes that is all it takes," her father said with a knowing smile. "When you know, you know." When Maya's father was finally discharged, Harrison helped them get settled back at the small house where Maya had grown up. He carried boxes, fixed a leaky faucet, and even cooked dinner, a surprisingly good pasta dish that made Maya's father ask for seconds. After her father had gone to bed, Harrison and Maya sat on the back porch, sharing a bottle of wine under the stars. "Thank you for everything you have done for us," Maya said. "You have been amazing." "I did not do anything special," Harrison said. "I just showed up." "That is more than most people would do," Maya said. She leaned her head against his shoulder and his arm came around her naturally, like it belonged there. "Maya," Harrison said softly, "I know this is fast and maybe I am crazy, but I have to tell you something. I am falling for you. Hard." Maya lifted her head to look at him. "You are not crazy. I am falling for you too." Harrison kissed her then, deep and long, and Maya felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Over the next few months, they fell into a rhythm. Harrison worked long hours at his company, but he always made time for Maya. They had dinner together most nights, sometimes at nice restaurants, sometimes cooking together at her apartment. They went to art museums and hiking trails, and once, memorably, to a karaoke bar where Harrison murdered a Beatles song and made Maya laugh so hard she could not breathe. Maya met Harrison's family when his older brother came to visit. They were warm and welcoming, and his brother pulled Maya aside at one point to tell her he had never seen Harrison this happy. Maya introduced Harrison to her friends, who unanimously approved and bombarded her with texts about how handsome and charming he was. The physical attraction between them was intense, but Harrison never pushed. He was patient and respectful, always making sure Maya was comfortable. When they finally made love for the first time, 3 months into their relationship, it was everything Maya had hoped for. Tender and passionate, funny and sweet. Afterward, they lay tangled together in Harrison's bed, and he traced patterns on her shoulder with his fingertips. "I love you," Harrison said quietly. "I have been wanting to say that for weeks, but I did not want to scare you off." "You could not scare me off if you tried," Maya said, kissing his jaw. "I love you too." But loving each other did not mean everything was easy. 6 months into their relationship, they had their first real fight. Harrison wanted Maya to move in with him, into his huge house in the hills. Maya loved his house, but she was worried about what it would mean for her independence. She had worked so hard to build her own life, and she did not want to lose herself in Harrison's world. "I am not asking you to give anything up," Harrison said, frustrated. "I just want to wake up next to you every morning." "But your house is so far from my office," Maya said. "And what about my dad? I check on him every few days. If I move out to the hills, that becomes a lot harder." "So we will get him a place closer to us," Harrison said. "Or I will hire a nurse to check on him. Maya, I have money. Let me use it to make our lives easier." "It is not about money," Maya said, her voice rising. "It is about me not wanting to be some kind of dependent girlfriend who lives in your house and relies on you for everything." Harrison looked like she had slapped him. "Is that really what you think would happen?" Maya sank onto the couch, suddenly exhausted. "I do not know. I am scared, okay? Everything is moving so fast and I love you so much it terrifies me." Harrison sat beside her and pulled her into his arms. "I am scared too," he admitted. "I have never felt this way about anyone." "But Maya, you are the strongest, most independent person I know. Moving in together is not going to change that. We would just be choosing to build a life together instead of separately." Maya thought about it for a long moment. "What if we compromised? What if I moved some of my things into your place, but I kept my apartment for now, just until I feel more secure about everything?" Harrison kissed her forehead. "I can work with that." They made it work. Maya spent most nights at Harrison's house but kept her apartment as a safety net. Slowly, over the next few months, the apartment became more of a storage space than a home. She realized she was not losing her independence. She was gaining a partner. Harrison proposed on their one-year anniversary. They had gone back to Guatemala, to the same coffee farm where Maya had closed her first big deal. Harrison arranged for them to have dinner under the stars, with candles and fairy lights strung through the trees. After dessert, he got down on one knee and pulled out a ring. "Maya Donovan," he said. "You walked into my life when I needed you just as much as you needed me. You made me believe in love again. You made me remember why I work so hard, because now I have someone I want to build a future with. Will you marry me?" Maya was crying and laughing at the same time. "Yes. Yes. Absolutely yes." The ring was perfect, a simple diamond that caught the light beautifully. Harrison slid it onto her finger and then picked her up and spun her around, both of them laughing like children. They got married 6 months later, in a small ceremony at the vineyard where they had their first official date. Maya's father walked her down the aisle, healthy and strong, his eyes shining with tears. Harrison's entire family came, along with Maya's friends and their employees from both companies. It was intimate and perfect, exactly what they both wanted. During their vows, Maya talked about how Harrison had taught her that accepting help was not a weakness but a strength. Harrison talked about how Maya had shown him that love was about showing up, even when it was hard, even when it was inconvenient. "You said yes when you could have said no," Harrison said, his voice thick with emotion. "You trusted me when you had no reason to. And I promised to spend the rest of my life proving that your trust was not misplaced." There was not a dry eye in the house. Their honeymoon was 2 weeks in New Zealand, hiking and exploring and falling even more in love. They stayed in remote cabins and luxury hotels, ate at food trucks and 5-star restaurants. Harrison surprised Maya by arranging visits to several coffee farms, knowing she would want to make business connections even on their honeymoon. Maya surprised Harrison by booking a day at a racing track, where he could drive expensive sports cars at ridiculous speeds. When they returned home, they settled into married life with surprising ease. They worked hard during the day. Harrison running his manufacturing empire, and Maya expanding her coffee business into new markets. At night, they cooked dinner together, watched bad reality television, and talked about their days. It was ordinary and extraordinary at the same time. A year into their marriage, Maya's company hit a rough patch. One of their biggest clients went bankrupt, owing them hundreds of thousands of dollars. Maya was devastated, staring at the financial reports and trying to figure out how they would survive. Harrison found her at 2 in the morning, sitting at the kitchen table with spreadsheets everywhere. "Talk to me," he said, sitting down beside her. Maya explained the situation. "We might have to lay off half our staff. Everything we have built, it could all fall apart. How much do you need?" Harrison asked. "I am not taking your money," Maya said immediately. "I am not offering charity," Harrison said. "I am offering an investment. Let me be a silent partner. I will put in the capital you need, and in return I get a small percentage of ownership. Business, not a handout." Maya wanted to argue, but she was too tired and too scared. "What if we fail? What if you lose your investment?" "Then we lose it together," Harrison said. "But Maya, I have read your business plan. I have seen your numbers. You are not going to fail. You just hit a bump. Let me help you get over it." Maya agreed, and Harrison's investment saved the company. Within 6 months, they had recovered and were more profitable than ever. Maya insisted on paying Harrison back ahead of schedule, with interest, but he used the money to set up a scholarship fund for students from low-income families who wanted to study agriculture or business. "You are a good man, Harrison Wells," Maya said when he told her. "I am just trying to keep up with my wife," Harrison said, kissing her. 2 years into their marriage, they started talking seriously about children. Maya was nervous about balancing a baby with her growing company, but Harrison was confident they could make it work. "We will figure it out together," he said, "just like we have figured out everything else." Maya got pregnant 3 months later. Harrison was over the moon, buying parenting books and baby gear before she was even out of her first trimester. He went to every doctor's appointment, asked a million questions, and burst into tears when they found out they were having a daughter. "A little girl," he whispered, his hand on Maya's stomach. "We are going to have a daughter." "She is going to have you wrapped around her finger," Maya said with a smile. "Absolutely," Harrison agreed. "I cannot wait." Pregnancy was hard on Maya. She had terrible morning sickness for months and she was exhausted all the time, but Harrison was amazing. He took over most of the household responsibilities, brought her crackers and ginger tea, and held her hair when she was sick. He told her she was beautiful even when she felt like a whale, and he rubbed her feet every single night without being asked. Maya's father was thrilled about becoming a grandfather. He helped them set up the nursery, painting the walls a soft yellow and assembling furniture. He told Maya how proud her mother would have been, how much she would have loved Harrison. When Maya went into labor, Harrison stayed calm even though she could see the panic in his eyes. He held her hand through every contraction, whispered encouragement, and cried when their daughter was finally born. They named her Sarah after Maya's mother, and Harrison held her like she was made of glass. "Hi, baby girl," he whispered. "I am your dad. I have been waiting my whole life to meet you." Maya watched them, her heart so full it felt like it might burst. This was her family. This was everything she had ever wanted, even when she had not known she wanted it. The first few months of parenthood were chaos. Sarah was a terrible sleeper, and Maya and Harrison took turns walking her around the house at 3 in the morning. They were exhausted and overwhelmed, snapping at each other over stupid things like who forgot to buy diapers or who was supposed to wash the bottles. But they got through it together. Harrison took paternity leave from his company, something that shocked his employees but that he insisted on. He wanted to be present for these early months, wanted to bond with his daughter and support his wife. Maya cut back her hours at work, promoting her second-in-command to handle day-to-day operations while she focused on strategy and big-picture decisions. Slowly, they found their rhythm. Sarah started sleeping longer stretches. Maya and Harrison learned to communicate better, to ask for help when they needed it, to be patient with each other. They had date nights where they hired a babysitter and went to dinner, remembering they were not just parents but also partners. When Sarah was 6 months old, Maya's father had another heart attack. This one was more serious than the first, and Maya spent days at the hospital, terrified she was going to lose him. Harrison brought Sarah to visit every day, knowing how much it meant to both Maya and her father to be together. "You have built a beautiful life, sweetheart," Maya's father told her one afternoon. "I am so proud of you, and your mother would be too." "Do not talk like that," Maya said, gripping his hand. "You are going to be fine, you have to be fine. Sarah needs her grandfather." Her father smiled weakly. "That little girl has given me so much joy. And seeing you with Harrison, seeing how happy you are, that is everything I could have hoped for." Maya's father survived the heart attack, but it was a wake-up call. He moved into a smaller, more manageable apartment closer to Maya and Harrison, and they made sure he had daily check-ins from a home health aide. Sarah adored her grandfather, reaching for him with chubby hands and giggling at his funny faces. As Sarah grew, she became a perfect mix of both her parents. She had Maya's dark hair and Harrison's gray eyes. She was curious and determined, always getting into things she was not supposed to. Harrison loved every minute of it, even when she drew on the walls or dumped an entire box of cereal on the kitchen floor. "She is fearless," Harrison said one night, watching Sarah toddle around the living room. "Just like her mother." "She is also stubborn," Maya said with a laugh. "Just like her father." When Sarah was 2, Maya and Harrison celebrated their 5th wedding anniversary. They went back to the vineyard where they had gotten married, leaving Sarah with Maya's father for the weekend. It felt strange to be without her, but it was also wonderful to have uninterrupted time together. "You remember our wedding?" Maya asked, leaning against Harrison as they walked through the vineyard. "Every detail," Harrison said. "You were so beautiful. You are still so beautiful." 5 years, Maya said. "It feels like forever and also like no time at all." "Best 5 years of my life," Harrison said. He stopped walking and turned to face her. "Maya, I know I say this all the time, but I need you to know how grateful I am that you said yes that night at the hospital. You could have told me to get lost. You could have decided I was some creepy weirdo offering a ride on a private plane, but you trusted me, and that changed everything." "I think we saved each other," Maya said. "I needed someone to show me it was okay to accept help." "You needed someone to show you it was okay to let people in. We were exactly what each other needed." "Think we will make it to 50 years?" Harrison asked with a grin. "At least," Maya said. "Maybe 60. They made love that night in the same room where they had spent their wedding night, and Maya felt like she was falling in love with Harrison all over again. He was not just her husband. He was her best friend, her partner, the person who knew her better than anyone else in the world. 2 years later, they had their second child, a son they named Marcus. He was calmer than Sarah had been, content to sit and observe the world around him. Sarah was fascinated by her baby brother, always wanting to help feed him or change his diaper. Harrison joked that they now had a perfect family, one of each. "Are we done?" Maya asked one night after Marcus was asleep. "2 kids feels like a lot." "If you want more, we will have more," Harrison said. "If you are happy with 2, I am happy with 2. I just want you to be happy, Maya." "I am," Maya said. "I am so happy it scares me sometimes, like maybe I do not deserve all of this." Harrison pulled her close. You deserve everything good in this world, do not ever doubt that. Maya's business continued to thrive. She opened a roastery, allowing her to control the entire process from farm to cup. She hired more employees, many of them women and people of color who had been overlooked by other companies. She became known in the industry, not just for her great coffee, but for her ethical practices and commitment to social responsibility. Harrison's company also grew. He developed new technologies that revolutionized food processing, making it easier for small producers to compete with big corporations. He donated millions to charity, focusing on education and hunger relief. But he always made sure his family came first, turning down opportunities that would have taken him away from home too much. When Sarah started kindergarten, Maya cried. Harrison held her hand as they walked their daughter to her classroom, watching her run off without a backward glance. "She is growing up so fast," Maya said. "She's going to change the world," Harrison said, "just like her mother did." As the years passed, their love only deepened. They had more fights, of course, about parenting decisions and money and whose turn it was to clean the bathroom. But they always talked things through. They never went to bed angry. They chose each other, over and over again, every single day. Maya's father passed away when Sarah was 7 and Marcus was 5. He died peacefully in his sleep. And while Maya was heartbroken, she was also grateful he had lived long enough to know his grandchildren and see her happy. At the funeral, Harrison gave a beautiful eulogy about how Maya's father had welcomed him into the family, how he had taught him about patience and forgiveness and unconditional love. After the funeral, Sarah climbed into Maya's lap. "Are you sad, Mommy?" "Yes, baby," Maya said. "I am very sad. But I am also happy that Grandpa got to be part of our lives for so long. He told me once that Daddy was his favorite person," Sarah said. "Besides you, of course." Maya smiled through her tears. "Grandpa was right. Daddy is pretty great." Harrison continued to surprise Maya, even after years of marriage. On their 10th anniversary, he took her back to Guatemala, to the coffee farm where he had first told her he loved her. But this time, he had arranged for the farm owners to name a new section of their farm after Maya's mother, Sarah. It would be used to grow experimental varieties of coffee, with all the profits going to a scholarship fund for girls in the local community. "I know how much your mother meant to you," Harrison said. "I wanted her legacy to live on in a place that has been so important to us." Maya sobbed, overwhelmed by the thoughtfulness of the gesture. "I do not know how you are real. How did I get so lucky?" "I ask myself the same question every day," Harrison said. "Except in my case, I know exactly how I got lucky. I heard a woman saying she had to do something alone, and I decided to speak up instead of walking away. Best decision I ever made." As their children grew older, Maya and Harrison made sure to keep their relationship strong. They still had date nights. They still talked for hours about everything and nothing. They still kissed each other goodbye every morning and hello every evening. They still made each other laugh. When Sarah was 13, she asked Maya how she knew Harrison was the one. "He showed up," Maya said simply. "When I needed help, when I was trying to do everything alone, he offered to be there. And then he kept showing up every single day, even when it was hard or inconvenient." Love is not just about big romantic gestures. It is about showing up consistently for the person you care about. "Do you think I will find someone like Daddy someday?" Sarah asked. "I think you will find someone even better," Maya said. "Someone who is perfect for you, the way Daddy is perfect for me." "I do not think anyone is better than Daddy," Sarah said, "but I hope I find someone who loves me as much as he loves you." Harrison overheard the conversation and later told Maya it was the greatest compliment he had ever received. Marcus, quieter and more thoughtful than his sister, loved to hear the story of how his parents met. Harrison would tell him about the hospital, about the plane ride to Guatemala, about how your mother was so strong and brave. Marcus would listen with wide eyes, like it was the greatest adventure story ever told. "I want to help people too," Marcus said one day when he was 8. "Like you and Mom do." "You will, buddy," Harrison said. "You have a good heart. You will figure out your own way to make a difference." As Maya approached 40, she found herself reflecting on how different her life was from what she had imagined. She had thought success meant doing everything alone, proving she did not need anyone. But she had learned that real strength was knowing when to ask for help, when to let people in. Harrison had taught her that. They were sitting on their back porch one evening, watching Sarah and Marcus play in the yard. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange. "You ever think about that night at the hospital?" Maya asked. "About what would have happened if you had not offered to help me?" "All the time," Harrison said. "I think I would have spent the rest of my life wondering about the sad, beautiful woman in the hallway who needed help but was too proud to ask for it." "I was not too proud," Maya protested. "I was just used to doing things alone." "And now?" Harrison asked. "Now I cannot imagine doing anything without you," Maya said. "You are my partner in everything, my business, my family, my life. I love you so much, Harrison." "I love you too," Harrison said. More than I could ever put into words. Years continued to pass, and they faced new challenges. Sarah went through a rough patch in high school, struggling with anxiety. Maya and Harrison got her into therapy and supported her through it, learning how to help without hovering. Marcus discovered a passion for environmental science and started spending all his free time studying climate change and sustainability. They encouraged his interests, proud of the young man he was becoming. Maya's business became one of the top ethical coffee importers in the country. She was invited to speak at conferences, to consult with other businesses about sustainable practices. But she never forgot where she started, and she made sure to mentor young entrepreneurs, especially women who were trying to make it in business. Harrison eventually stepped back from the day-to-day operations of his company, naming a successor so he could focus on philanthropy and spending time with his family. He loved being able to pick the kids up from school, to be present for every soccer game and school play. On their 20th anniversary, their children threw them a surprise party. Sarah was away at college but came home for the weekend. Marcus, now in high school, had helped plan everything. They invited family and friends, people from both Maya and Harrison's companies, even some of the farmers from Guatemala who had flown in for the occasion. 20 years ago, Mom said yes to the craziest offer ever, Sarah said in her toast. A strange man offered her a ride on a private plane, and instead of thinking he was a serial killer, she decided to trust him. And that decision changed everything. It gave me and Marcus the best parents we could have asked for. It showed us what real love looks like. So here is to Mom for being brave enough to say yes, and to Dad for being crazy enough to offer. We love you both so much. Maya and Harrison were both crying by the end of the speech. Harrison stood up and pulled Maya into his arms, kissing her in front of everyone. 20 years, he whispered against her lips, and I would do it all over again in a heartbeat. Me too, Maya said. Every single second. As they danced to the same song they had danced to at their wedding, Maya thought about how lucky she was. She had built a successful business, raised 2 incredible children, and spent 2 decades with a man who made her laugh every single day. She had faced challenges and losses, celebrated victories and milestones. And through it all, Harrison had been beside her, steady and true. "What are you thinking about?" Harrison asked as they swayed together. "I am thinking about how you are still the best thing that ever happened to me," Maya said. How I almost did that Guatemala trip alone, and how different my life would be if I had. I am glad you did not have to do it alone, Harrison said. I am glad you let me come with you. Best decision I ever made, Maya said. Years later, when Sarah got married, Maya helped her get ready. As she buttoned the back of her daughter's wedding dress, Sarah turned to her with tears in her eyes. I hope my marriage is half as good as yours and Dad's, she said. It will be even better, Maya promised, because it will be yours. But Sarah, remember what I have always told you. A good marriage is not about finding someone perfect. It is about finding someone who shows up, who chooses you every day, who is willing to do the hard work of loving you even when it is not easy. Like how Dad showed up that night at the hospital, Sarah said. Exactly like that, Maya said. Marcus got married a few years later to a woman he had met in graduate school who shared his passion for environmental conservation. At his wedding, he asked Harrison to be his best man. You taught me what it means to be a good man, Marcus said in his speech. You taught me to work hard, to be honest, to treat people with respect. But most importantly, you taught me how to love someone. I watched you love Mom for my entire life, and that is the example I want to follow. Harrison was not embarrassed to cry in front of everyone. He hugged his son and told him how proud he was, how much he loved him. As Maya and Harrison entered their 60s, they slowed down a bit. They traveled more, taking long trips to places they had always wanted to see. They spent time with their grandchildren, spoiling them the way grandparents are supposed to. They still ran their businesses, but more as advisors and mentors than hands-on managers. One evening, they returned to the hospital where they had first met. It had been renovated since then, modernized and expanded. But the hallway where Harrison had approached Maya was still there, and they stood in the same spot, holding hands. I was so scared that night, Maya said. I thought I was going to lose everything. I was scared too, Harrison admitted. I almost walked past you. I almost decided it was not my business, that I should not get involved. But something made me stop. Maybe it was fate, maybe it was chance. I like to think it was your mother watching over you and giving me a push. Maybe it was, Maya said. She would have loved you, you know. She would have been so happy I found you. I wish I could have met her, Harrison said. But I see her in you every day. In your strength, your kindness, your determination to make the world better. They kissed in that hallway. Two people who had taken a chance on each other decades ago and built a beautiful life together. On their 40th anniversary, they renewed their vows. It was a small ceremony, just family and close friends. Sarah and Marcus stood beside them as they promised, once again, to love and honor each other for the rest of their lives. 40 years ago, I took a leap of faith, Maya said in her vows. I said yes to a stranger's offer, and it led me to you. You have been my rock, my partner, my best friend. You have made me laugh, made me think, made me a better person. I would choose you 1,000 times over, Harrison Wells. I would say yes every single time. Harrison could barely speak through his tears. Maya, you changed my life the moment you walked into it. You taught me that love is not about grand gestures or expensive gifts. It is about showing up. It is about being there when someone needs you, even when it is hard, even when it is inconvenient. I will keep showing up for you for the rest of my life. I will keep choosing you every single day until I take my last breath. They grew old together, gracefully and happily. They dealt with health issues and losses, celebrated births and achievements. They argued sometimes about small things like they always had, but they never stopped loving each other. They never stopped being grateful for that night at the hospital, for Harrison's offer and Maya's yes, for the life they had built together. On a warm spring evening, when they were both in their late 70s, they sat on their porch watching the sunset. Their bodies were older now, slower. but their love was as strong as ever. Sarah and Marcus were planning a party for their 50th anniversary, but Maya and Harrison were content to just be together, holding hands and watching the sky change colors. "You have any regrets?" Maya asked. Harrison thought for a long moment. "No," he said finally. "Not a single one." "Well, maybe I regret not buying that ridiculous expensive coffee maker you wanted last year," Maya laughed. "I told you it was worth it." "You are always right," Harrison said with a smile. "That is one thing I learned early on. Not always," Maya said, "but thank you for pretending." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the kind of silence that only comes from decades of knowing someone completely. "Harrison," Maya said softly. "Yes, love. Thank you for offering to come with me that night. Thank you for not letting me do it alone." Harrison brought her hand to his lips and kissed it gently. "Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for 47 years of saying yes every single day." "I will keep saying yes," Maya promised. "For as long as I have." "Me too," Harrison said. "Always." As the sun set completely, painting the sky in brilliant shades of purple and gold, they stayed on the porch together. Two people who had met in a hospital hallway, who had taken a chance on each other, who had built a life full of love and laughter and joy. Two people who had learned that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let someone help you. Let someone in. Let someone love you. And Maya knew, as she sat there with Harrison's hand in hers, that she would make the same choice again and again. She would always say yes to this man, to this life, to this love that had started with a simple offer and a leap of faith. Because that was what love was. It was showing up. It was being there. It was saying yes, even when you were scared, even when you thought you had to do it alone. It was finding someone who would come with you, no matter what, and choosing to walk beside them for the rest of your life.